morning to you, and thank you for joining us on After GMS. So sorry for the delay here. We had to work out some tech gremlins, as everything we do is now technology based. It's bound to happen, but we thank you for sticking around. We do have some important conversations to get to this morning. Ed Matthews is in the weather garden. We have Megan Malaris, who is working from home, as well as Taran Kirksey. They have a great conversation about working from home, too, that we'll get to. But first, let's start with the forecast. I mentioned before, it's hot, sticky, icky, gross.
Definitely all of the above today. We will see temperatures warming up into the mid to upper 80s, a good chance of scattered showers and thunderstorms, that chance at around 60%. So it's not going to rain everywhere, but a lot of us, I think, will see those pop-up storms later today. A few of those could be on the strong side. We'll watch that for you. The rain coverage not as widespread for Wednesday, and then we're mainly dry Thursday, Friday, Saturday before rain chances go up again as we head on into early next week. That's a quick look at your forecast.
All right, let's jump right into it, guys, because this conversation is picking up steam. We are waiting to hear from the governor about whether he will make wearing a mask mandatory. But Greensboro Mayor Nancy Vaughn said she's not waiting, and she issued the emergency proclamation requiring face covering. So this morning we want to know, what do you think if people will follow the mask requirement? All right, so here's a little bit more about the requirement. It goes into effect tonight at 5 p.m. It stays into effect as long as Mayor Nancy Vaughn requires it to. So you will need to wear a mask or a face covering when you're in public or a private space whenever social distancing is not possible. So that includes the grocery store, pharmacies, businesses, parking lots, sidewalks, and even public transit. There are some exceptions. Children under 12 do not have to wear a mask. Anyone who cannot wear one because of a medical condition is also exempt. You don't need to wear one if you are inside dining at a restaurant, and if you are outside exercising, you are also exempt. So right now we want to know, do you think people will follow the face mask requirement? Before we get to the comments on the live stream, Ed Matthews, we'll start with you.
Well, I'm certainly hoping that they will comply. I know that there's always going to be a small group of people that, will defy, requests and orders and things like that. And I think that's going to be the case here. But I would like to think that our citizens in Greensboro and really throughout the area are smart enough that they are aware that it's very important to protect ourselves and protect other people from the virus. And one way to do that is to wear a mask, and of course also social distancing as well. But here are the facts. We want to get back to a normal life. The only way that that's going to happen is for the number of cases to really start to go down, whether that happens in a few weeks, this year, or next year. We all have a responsibility to do our part to make sure that that happens and we don't spread the disease even more. And that face mask, I think, is important. I got a stack of them. I'm ready to go. I've been doing it. I've been wearing masks. Yeah, nothing new for me.
A lot of people are commenting that nothing in their daily life will change with wearing this mask, because now it's a requirement, because they've been doing it as part of their own family plan for months now. Megan, do you think people will follow the order?
I do. I think maybe any violation of the order would perhaps be because people don't quite understand all of the rules about it. This just came out. Even I had some questions. For example, on Thursday, I'm planning to go for a walk with a friend and our babies, and I was wondering, okay, do I need to bring my mask to that, even though we're going to be outside and spaced out 6 feet apart? It looks like, based on what I'm reading on the City of Greensboro's website, the answer would be yes. The only times you're exercising outside and do not need a mask is if you're exercising alone, or while you're walking or exercising with people from your family or your household. So that's an important clarification there. We want to make sure we all read the specifics of this order in Greensboro. And again, it only pertains to the city limits of Greensboro. And then, of course, Raleigh and Boone have their own mask requirements. There's no statewide mandate as of yet. But I think we all need to be aware of what's required, what's asked of us. But I do think, at least as far as what I've been observing around town, in the grocery store, at a patio, at a restaurant over the weekend, people are wearing masks. They're keeping their distance. They're being respectful. The other day we had an HVAC repairman come to our house, and we have a stack of fresh masks by the door, and we asked him if he wouldn't mind putting one on because we have a young child in the house, and he complied. He was very, very respectful of that. So I think people do have good intentions with this.
All right, Taran, you're up next.
All right, I won't go on my long, rant this time. We'll see. I think just from anecdotal evidence, I feel like a lot of people have worn the mask. So my hope is that most people do, but we'll have to just kind of wait and see.
Yeah, we will have to wait and see. Well, people are not waiting to comment on the live stream here, so I'm going to read these comments as they come in. They are by no way in any order, and I'm not one-sided about this issue. So please do not hold me accountable for the way that they are read. I am just reading them at random. All right, I have to say that every time because someone called me out for that, and that was clearly not my intention. So disclaimers always go first. Melissa Mullen says, really, 3 months in? That's ridiculous. Saying, basically, why wait till now? Amber Wheeler said, I wear one at work anyway. Doesn't too much bother me at this point. Faith Brooks says, no, some will, most won't because it will not be enforced. And we're also hearing from a lot of people like Jason saying people are not listening to the governor. So I assure you they are not going to listen to the mayor. Shakina says, good morning. I can only imagine the amount of people who will be turned away for service if they try to shop or go anywhere without a mask. And some people like Jeff said, some will, some won't. Sandra simply said, nope. April said, nope, I will always be exercising. Laquita says, no. And April Tucker said, ridiculous. So there is definitely a few different sides to this. And a lot of people are saying, yeah, they will, no, they won't. I think that the clarification has to come, with who is enforcing this. I don't know, Megan, in your research, if you can point to that fact, but the enforcement issue is kind of my question mark here. Who's enforcing it? How will it be enforced? Or is it just the personal responsibility knowing that because it's an order, you now have to comply?
Yeah, so it looks like that's not been specified yet, at least based on the City of Greensboro's post, which was about 6 p.m. last night. So obviously we're going to be digging into more of these questions today. Who's enforcing it? Is it based on other people reporting you? If so, who and where do they call to report the violators? And then is there at some point going to be a fine? We know Boone is issuing a fine, but gave it about a 3-week grace period to help visitors and residents get used to this policy. Is that something that's going to be in effect in Greensboro, or are these cities waiting to see if Governor Cooper is going to do a statewide mandate? That is an idea that's been floating around. Again, we're still waiting to hear from him on phase 3. So masks could be a part of this broader discussion.
All right, and people are still weighing in here. Janelle says, I think wearing a mask is a sign of respect to others, and it does offer the wearer a small measure of protection. Michelle Varner Southern says she cannot wear one because she's claustrophobic, which would mean under the City of Greensboro's requirement here, you would be exempt from wearing one. Sabrina says absolutely the right thing to do. Jean Apple says better a mask than a ventilator. And Joseph said it is against my religion to wear a mask, which is also part of the exemptions under this rule. So again, make sure you read everything. We have it on our website, WFNYnews2.com, what's included in this order, what is exempt from this order, and see where you fall in. And then hopefully today we'll be pressing the government here, the local government, about enforcement and what that means. Are there going to be any fines? And if there are, who's going to be issuing them? And what does it mean? Does it mean someone can kick you out of the business if you don't have a mask on? I want to know more about that part because we know that it is now a requirement, but now we have to dig a little deeper. All right, Megan, let's get up to date with the headlines.
All right, so obviously the numbers are a big factor in all of this discussion about protection against COVID-19. So as of yesterday's State Health Department update around noon, 804 more people had tested positive in the last 24 hours. That brings the total number of confirmed cases to more than 53,000 since the pandemic started. Right now, 870 people are fighting the virus in the hospital, another near record. In the Triad, there are more than 2,400 cases reported in Guilford County, including 106 deaths. In Forsyth County, more than 2,500 cases and 28 deaths. In Alamance County, 900 cases and 35 deaths. To be clear here, more than 37,000 people have recovered from COVID-19. That's about 68% of the total cases thus far. Another update's coming at noon. Hundreds of Triad workers could soon be out of a job. Volvo Group says it will lay off 4,100 employees across the globe. Our business partners at the Triad Business Journal say 450 of them work at the facility in Greensboro. Volvo Group released this statement about the layoffs, saying, quote, "The epidemic has led to a market situation impacting our industry severely. We expect lower demand going forward, and we need to continue to adjust our organization accordingly," end quote. Volvo has not said when the layoffs will take effect.
In your national headlines, people paid their respects to Rayshard Brooks yesterday at the Atlanta church where Martin Luther King Jr. once preached. A private funeral will be held for Brooks this afternoon. The 27-year-old was shot and killed by police June 12th. Fired Atlanta police officer Garrett Rolfe faces 11 charges, including felony murder. Another officer is suspended and faces lesser charges. Today, President Donald Trump is headed to Arizona, where he will tour a section of the border wall. Then he will hold a rally with the group Students for Trump. During a campaign rally in Oklahoma over the weekend, the president was criticized for saying he ordered a slowdown in coronavirus testing. The White House said the president was joking. Well, today, LAX is launching a trial temperature screening program the Los Angeles airport is putting in place to detect travelers who might have coronavirus. Arriving and departing passengers at the airport's Bradley International Terminal will be checked by thermal cameras. The technology will identify travelers who have a temperature of 100.4 or higher.
Let's get to our second talker. Working from home is a reality for millions of Americans amid COVID-19. And while some find it the perfect solution, others are really anxious to get back to the office and talk to their colleagues face to face. As we go over some of the pros and cons over the past few months, we want you to weigh in. You can vote WFMY.com/vote now, or let us know how you're feeling about it in the comments below this post on the live feed.
As the mother of two young children, Jean Stafford thought working from home would be a nice change.
I was thinking I was getting some extra time with them. I would set up upstairs. It would be great.
But after 2 weeks of working remotely for a Massachusetts publishing house while juggling her family's needs, she started to feel the strain.
A few days I would be fine and working fine and everything would be fine. And then on, say, like a Friday, I would feel like I couldn't even deal. Couldn't get up that day. Couldn't, get dressed. Couldn't put a smile on.
Stafford says she was burnt out, a condition doctors are seeing more than ever among people working from home.
They feel a sense of hopelessness and they feel a sense of pessimism. It's almost like this idea like it doesn't matter. Whatever I do, no one's going to appreciate it.
Without a commute to separate home life from the office, it can feel like the workday never ends. Many employees are working harder with longer hours to prove their productivity.
So I think it's really important to check ourselves to say, if I'm writing that extra memo, if I'm going the extra mile, did somebody actually ask me to do that? Or is that something I've invented in my own head that I need to do that?
In a recent survey, more than 50% said they're experiencing burnout while working from home. And health experts are concerned the condition can lead to depression.
When that starts to bleed over into other aspects of your life, where you stop experiencing pleasure or joy, I want you to start thinking about depression.
To prevent that, Stafford is trying to put less pressure on herself as both a worker and a mom, and to take life's challenges one day at a time. Nancy Chen, CBS News, New York.
Well, Dr. Varma also recommends setting boundaries like defined work hours, also clarifying your boss's expectations and turning off devices for a break. That for me is, I think, probably the hardest part of working from home. Of course, there are pros and cons. It's been a blessing in transitioning from maternity leave, especially, you know, being able to just pop out and check on my son every once in a while during the day is awesome. But it is also hard to separate work from home life. You know, for example, on the weekends, I've been tracking these COVID numbers and I've just been popping into my home office to try to do a little bit of work when I get some time. And so it's just hard to separate that even in your off time. So Taran, I know you are just enjoying every second of working from home, aren't you?
Yeah, there are no cons over here. I gotta tell you, you know, but you know, I was kind of talking to my wife about it, I guess last week or the week before. I guess our situation is almost the perfect scenario. We don't have kids running around, you know, making noise. We just have 2 dogs. They're fairly well behaved. We know they're not going to bark or anything, probably. While we're doing our jobs, we have a separate office. We just close the door and it's a whole separate thing. As soon as we walk out of the office, not doing any type of work or anything like that. And just my personality is just, I compartmentalize things pretty easily. And so if I'm not working, I'm not thinking about work. You know, if I am working, then I am focused on work. And it's just kind of, that's just kind of the way my mind operates, you know, and I like silence. I like quiet spaces to focus, and I also like to crank up my music while I'm forecasting. And all of that has been something I've been able to do while I've been working from home.
And Trace, what about you? How are you feeling still being in the office, holding things down from us from the studio?
Yeah, I can't really weigh in on the work from home life. Haven't done it. Would have liked to have been offered the opportunity to choose instead of kind of being saying, you're going into the office every day. But you know, I'm here and I'm making the best of it. Yes, it is lonely. Yes, I have concerns because even though there's no one around me immediately, there are people that come through the building and work here at different times. So I have to make sure I come in early and disinfect everything that I'm going to touch just to make sure that I am not bringing something home to my family. This is the only place I go where I don't wear a mask because I'm on TV. But you know, as soon as the shows are over, you know, I have my mask on, you know, I go home. I have 2 young children at home. I have, you know, a husband I have to think about, and I don't want to bring anything home to them. So I'm just being extra safe. I'm certainly not, you know, I'm not exactly like thrilled to be here. You know what I mean? I would like to have had the opportunity to maybe work from home a little bit. You know, the bathrooms are nice at my house. The coffee is great, you know. I have my kids and, you know, we have an area where I could have done that safely, but, you know, it's okay. It was the decision that was made for me, and now I am making it work. How about you, Ed?
Well, and I think you're right, making it work. Now, I do a large part of my work at home before I come in. To be honest with you, I don't come in until about 15 minutes before we go on the air. I know that's weird, but that's because I do everything from home. I can do the forecasting, I can look at weather data, I can draw the weather maps, send emails to people I need to communicate with, and then I come in and rack the show, come out into my little office here, the weather garden, and everything is okay. But Megan brought up a good point, and this is something that I haven't thought about, and that's being able to separate your home life from your work life. Because when you go to work, and then when the day's over, see you work, I'm going home. You can get away from it. I had not thought about that angle before, but I can certainly see where there might be some difficulty and some stress there. Your home is your home, and your home is your office as well.
Yeah, well, we want to thank everybody for weighing in on this. Let's check our comments here on the WFMY Facebook page. Again, we asked you, have you been working from home? I saw a few. Again, these are scrolling live. Some folks saying, yeah, they're used to it. Others saying, yeah, they're kind of ready to go back to the office. Trace, if you see any pop in, let me know. But again, this is just an ongoing discussion we are continuing to hear about as a lot of people wait for their employers to make the call saying, okay, you can come back in or you can't come back in, or we're going to do this gradually. And I think a lot of companies are waiting on the states to decide what these next phases are.
Yeah, that might be. Regardless, I will be here. I will be here, and I will be holding it down on the Good Morning Show, and that is a fact. All right, I don't see any additional comments, Megan, so at this point, if it's okay with you, I will turn it over to Ed Matthews for a look at our forecast.
Okay, looking good across the area this morning. Certainly nice here in the Garden with a mix of sun and clouds. Temperatures move on up into the mid and upper 80s today. That afternoon heating and a little trough of low pressure over the region. Going to give us a good chance of scattered storms for the afternoon and evening. Maybe one or two of those being strong or severe with damaging winds. So we'll keep an eye on things as we go through the day. And then tomorrow, only a few isolated storms on Wednesday, and then we go into a dry period. Yeah, look at Thursday, Friday, Saturday, anticipating dry weather. On Thursday, maybe just a tad less humid. I certainly hope so. But we're looking at mid 80s for Thursday and Friday. But by the weekend, we're back into the upper 80s, and we'll add a small afternoon storm chance on Sunday and Monday. That 7 days got June written all over it.
All right, that sounds great. Well, I mean, in terms of the fact that we'll see a dry forecast,
yeah.
Not great necessarily in terms of the 90-degree temperatures that we might see, but it's June, and I was complaining last week when it was cold, so I guess I'm just a North Carolina girl who's living in a North Carolina weather world. All right. Thanks so much for joining us here on After GMS. So glad that you took part in our conversations. We'll have some more conversations for you tomorrow, and we'll work out that time frame. So 7:45 exactly is where we're aiming to be. All right. We'll see you guys next time. Stay safe.